So the Oscars. When was the last time that you thought of those? Yeah, same here. It's certainly been a while. But they're in the news because the Academy, who is in charge of awarding Oscars, has released some new guidelines for future films who aspire to win Best Picture. These guidelines are basically requirements stating that from the year 2023 onward, to win Best Picture, a film production must meet certain diversity standards. This has many people riled up, and some people are even going as far as to say that this is going to be the death of art as we know it. Needless to say, a claim like this is going to be the death of art is a claim worth addressing on this channel, and in general. Now this is mostly a games journalism channel, we do talk about games and trends in game design here, but I think it's also worth addressing this because games are built on a foundation of other media, and trends in other media tend to find their way into games eventually. I'm Blitzen Cross, and today I'm taking a look at the Oscars guidelines for diversity. So, before we begin, I firmly believe that it's possible, but highly unrecommended, to have an opinion before you even know what you're having an opinion about. Now that hasn't stopped a lot of people from doing it, but nevertheless, first let's establish what the new guidelines actually are. So there are 4 standards that the Academy has specified, and you have to meet 2 or 4 of these to qualify for Best Picture. So Standard A centers around diversity in the film's actors. You can have a lead or supporting actor be from a minority racial or ethnic group. You can have 30% of the supporting actors be made of women, minority racial or ethnic groups, LGBTQ, or people with cognitive or physical disabilities. Or your storyline must be about some of the groups mentioned above. And that's Standard A. All of the other standards are pretty similar. Standard B applies the same criteria or similar criteria to those who produced the film, like creative leadership, casting directors, and other crew. Standard C says that you must provide internships or apprenticeships or training for groups mentioned in the other 2 standards. If you're a major studio, these must be substantive and ongoing. And Standard D is about the executives behind the film, the publicity folks, the marketers, and the same criteria applies again. So you can basically boil it down to at least 2 groups out of crew, actors, interns, and executives must be diverse, where diverse means either 30% representation of minority or underrepresented groups, or some other arbitrary criteria. So are these requirements going to cause the death of art? Well, spoiler alert, they're not. Now, the first thing is that the criteria themselves are not very hard to meet. Most films which have won Big Picture actually already meet these criteria, especially in the last 20 years. They're pretty simple to meet. If 6 members of your crew are not white, you're already halfway there. You've met an entire standard. If half your makeup department is female, which is extremely easy to achieve, then you've met half the requirements. And the internship requirement is one of the easiest that I've ever seen. It's really easy to have a couple of interns in a smaller film studio, and very easy for a larger film company to have them. So it's not very hard to actually achieve the criteria, so the people complaining can't be complaining about that. So they must be complaining about the principle behind the thing, right? That the Academy is telling you not to make films which don't meet these criteria. But that's not really true either. These criteria only apply to one particular award, Best Picture, and within a particular award framework, the Oscars. Of course, many films hope to win an Oscar, and it is sort of the epitome of being a film or producing a film, and in particular Best Picture is the heart of the Academy Awards. But the awards don't really matter at the end of the day. You can still make whatever films you want, even with these criteria in place. It doesn't bar you from making a film, it bars you from winning one particular award. That is a very limited limitation, in fact. But even if these guidelines were restricting the creative freedom or license of several major films, it wouldn't really matter, because censorship or change happens all the time in media. It's not something new, and it hasn't prevented some great things from being created. It used to be that book publishers wouldn't accept books in which you wrote the word damn or any swear words. Did that negatively affect books like Huckleberry Finn? Sure, but it doesn't matter. It was a drop in the bucket. Basically irrelevant. I'm of the opinion that these guidelines don't actually achieve anything. They're not going to be the death of art. In fact, they're not even going to encourage the diversity that they seek to establish. They're little more than a statement. A statement that the Academy cares about diversity and that film should care about diversity. Now, some people think that film has no business caring about diversity, but the fact of the matter is that the Oscars addressing this social issue, and that too so lightly, is not going to affect anyone, negatively or positively. So the people saying that this is the death of art and complaining about censorship, this is not extreme enough to warrant that reaction. It is not even extreme enough to warrant a discussion, in fact. The only thing generating this discussion is the fact that people are so riled up about it. If they weren't, then this wouldn't be an issue at all. I would like to believe that the video gaming community is generally more open-minded. If there were an entity like the Academy Awards for determining best game of the year, and not just the Game Awards, but an even larger entity, and games were subjected to these same criteria, I can imagine that reactions would be tamer overall, because games have had to deal with this stigma of not being serious for many, many years. It took many years until people even saw games as having the potential to be art. Even today, there are people who just don't believe that gaming can be art. And so to fight against that stigma and to come all the way here, I think gaming as a medium is definitely more open-minded to these kinds of things, and if these diversity requirements were to appear, I believe the backlash would be far less. And from that open-minded perspective, I have to come and say, I think that the Oscar guidelines are not only not negative, they're also not very impactful in the first place. I'm really curious to hear your opinions though. What do you think? Do you think that these guidelines are going to do anything? Do you think that the principle of encouraging diversity in art is important? Do you think that they're ever going to make their way into the gaming industry? And do you think that the Oscars and the Academy Awards are doing a good thing overall? I'm Blitzen Cross, and this is me signing out. I'll see you next time.